Hello and welcome to my textual analysis project slideshow. My name is Michelle Tanner and these are my findings and implications for COMM 610 at Queen's University of Charlotte. For my textual analysis project, I decided to focus on the topic of brand loyalty in employees. According to James, brand loyalty is not the same as customer loyalty. He says that customer loyalty is actually based on what people do. So, for example, purchasing a product over and over again. Usually we think of that as a good consumer. However, the idea of brand loyalty is a little bit different. So, brand loyalty is actually based on how people feel when they use a product or shop with a certain company. Take a look at the brands on the screen. What emotions, if any, do you feel when you see each of them? Is it different for each brand? In today's corporate environment, keeping customers emotionally invested in your product is a key to long-term success. So how do companies create brand loyalty? Freeman and McCarthy believe that the employee is an integral part of this dynamic. Disney's training model has actually gained attention over the years as a leadership blueprint for employee engagement. Their commitment to employee training is demonstrated through Disney University. There are a couple of Disney University locations in the United States. There's one in Anaheim, California, as well as Lake Buena Vista, Florida. Upon being hired, these new employees are sent to one of these locations, and they undergo intensive customer service and branding training. For my project, I conducted an ideological analysis of the Disney Lookbook. According to Brummett, an ideological analysis should answer the following questions. What should the audience think or do? What does the text ask the audience to assume? How does the audience know what the text claims? And finally, who is empowered or disempowered? Before we explore these questions, let's talk a little bit about what exactly is the Disney Lookbook. The Disney Lookbook is a booklet that each Disney employee receives on the day of their training, the first day of their training. Inside the book is a detailed description of appearance guidelines for Disney employees. It also goes into some further details about attitude expectations, body language. In fact, there's even a clause about the no frowning rule. I sought to answer Brummett's questions in reviewing this text. So, first of my findings, what should the employee think or do? According to the text, employees should seek to be a seamless part of the show. They should wear the Disney costume that's provided to them, and they should understand that you as an individual have an impact on guest experience. Within the Disney Lookbook, Disney is sending the message that by complying with Disney Look, employees are ensuring consistency of quality to their customers. Actions, attitude, and appearance of Disney employees should align with the Disney ideals of cleanliness and friendliness. So, next, what does the text ask the audience to assume? First of all, assume that the brand identity is more important than the individual identity. So, for example, expressing your individuality through clothing, makeup, hairstyle, etc. is not valued. Second, assume that expectations of appearance and attitude will be applied to each employee on every level. So we know, looking at the lookbook, that even senior level managers are going to be held to the same code as an entry-level position working in a park. And finally, assume that your interactions with each guest will have a lasting impact. Guests are coming to you for an experience. Make theirs memorable for the right reason. Next, how does the audience know what the text claims? This question seems a little bit obvious to me. But the text is pretty clear-cut. It gives clear instructions, broken down by category, and even further broken down by gender. So employees should understand exactly what to expect as far as the Disney Look guidelines. Let's look into some of the guidelines specifically. So for females, their hairstyling, it's very, very well planned out as far as what should occur. So conservative, easy to maintain, neatly combed, classic. These are the words that you're seeing in the description. Females are also advised about if they wear makeup, how it should be blended and in colors complementary to skin tone. Females are also encouraged to keep their fingernails clean and short. Fingernail polish is not suggested, but if you do decide to use it, make sure that it's complementary to your color of your skin. And finally, jewelry. So you can wear a little bit of jewelry, but you can't wear more than one ring on each hand, no more than one earring in each ear, etc. Next, we get into the male findings. So what are males allowed to do? With facial hair, there are some acceptable guidelines. However, the unacceptable guidelines are illustrated clearly to the right. What about sideburns? This is also laid out. And finally, hairstyles. The description for hairstyles permissible for males was so long I wasn't able to copy and paste it here. However, I was able to copy and paste the actual pictures of what's acceptable and not acceptable. So finally, who is empowered or disempowered based on the text? So I decided, based on what I found in my findings, there is a potential for positive and negative effects for employees based on the Disney look. With the expectations of the Disney look, Disney created an environment that can produce both positive and negative impacts on employees. I believe that employees who don't feel restricted by these guidelines may become brand champions for Disney. Therefore, they may be empowered. But who's disempowered? Some employees may find the rules in the lookbook restrictive and therefore feel as though their ability to express their individuality is threatened. I'm going to read some feedback on Disney look guidelines from Disney employees. I found these posts on online forums. One woman on the Mouse to Ears blog stated, "On my first day of training, I was told that the highlights in my hair were too dramatic. I was pulled aside by an older cast member who explained to me that to be on stage, I would need to get my hair fixed. He also told me I would have to cover the tattoo on my wrist. I was so embarrassed that I decided it wasn't for me." On the other hand, a Disney CP forum post read, "The Disney look guidelines are definitely strict, but I don't mind them. I like that I can wear the same costume to work every day, and I don't have to think about what I'm going to wear. I think the rules are important. It's not that bad." The cybernetic tradition. Let's talk about this. The following is a quote from our book that pretty well outlines what the cybernetic tradition is all about. Usually you hear cybernetic tradition in relation to systems theory. It's basically based on the idea that there are interacting elements that influence one another in complex systems, and therefore every part affects the other. So, how does the Disney lookbook relate to this tradition? The overall messaging of the lookbook as a text is to blend in. Employees are not to take away attention from the show. Doug Litz talks about this in the idea of the seamless performance in his book, Disney U. This is a direct quotation from the book. With cybernetics, it's important to think about communication as a system. Within the system are multiple parts. This tradition supports that there is an interdependent relationship between employee attitude, employee appearance, guest satisfaction, and eventually brand loyalty. Consistency in all the products, the employees, the parks, the movies, the internal communication, everything that you think about when you think of Disney, promotes an environment where, according to Frame and McCarthy, brand loyalty can flourish. If one of the parts does not transmit the desired message, it risks ruining the experience as a whole. Jeff James writes about the importance of each part of the system and how it has the potential to impact brand loyalty in the quote shown here. He wrote a great article about the importance of brand loyalty. He's actually one of the ambassadors for Disney University. So in conclusion, we've discussed how employers in this course specifically, some of them don't have the consistency of messaging in their employees and in their marketing. We've talked a little bit about how this can jeopardize the trust of the consumer and how, in general, it can have an overall negative impact on how they do and how successful they are as a company. My findings in analyzing the content of the Disney Lookbook are important because they emphasize the ideologies of performance, showmanship, and brand loyalty of the Disney brand. My findings support the idea that Disney uses internal communication strategy through training tools as a means to promote brand loyalty amongst employees.